You are 19 years old, standing behind the workbench of your father's watchmaker's shop in Leipzig when the bell above the door rings. It is August 1914. Outside, late summer sunlight warms the cobblestones, and crowds in the street are singing patriotic songs. Inside, your father is carefully fitting a gear into a pocket watch, his hands steady despite the noise outside. Your girlfriend Clara is waiting for you at the corner bakery because you promised to walk her home through the park. You have ordinary plans. Complete your apprenticeship, marry her when the spring comes, take over the shop when your father's eyes finally fail him. Nothing grand, nothing heroic. Then a young postal courier steps into the shop and hands you a folded paper stamped with the Imperial seal. Your father stops working before you even open it. He fought at Sedan 44 years ago. He knows what government ink looks like on heavy paper. Your mother weeps quietly into her apron when you bring it home that evening. Clara does not cry. She stands beside you in the courtyard, pressing a small brass pocket compass into your palm. On the inner lid, she has scratched 4 words: "Home before leaves fall." You smile because everyone in the city is saying the Kaiser promised the soldiers would be back before the autumn leaves hit the ground. You slide the compass into your tunic pocket. It will stay there through drill grounds, across the border, into mud-soaked trenches, and through shell fire that will shatter almost everything else you hold dear. The army sends you to a garrison in Dresden. They shave your head, strip away your civilian clothes, give you a heavy wool coat, and teach you that your life is no longer your own. You march in iron-rimmed boots until your heels bleed. You learn to fix a bayonet in pitch darkness. You crawl through thorns while drill instructors yell that discipline is the only thing standing between you and a French bullet. At night, in the cold barracks, men speak of their hometowns with the ache of starving men imagining a feast. That is where you meet Lucas, a baker's apprentice from Nuremberg. He carries a tin of dried marjoram from his mother's garden and swears he can make standard army broth taste like home if he just adds a pinch. Lucas talks constantly. He describes cherry tarts, fresh sourdough, and warm pretzels baked at midnight. He keeps a wooden carving knife his grandfather gave him, endlessly shaving small blocks of pine into smooth wooden figures whenever he is anxious. There is also Feldwebel Becker, 30 years old, but with eyes that look older than the church steeples in Leipzig. He served in German Southwest Africa years ago. He never shouts during artillery practice. He tells you that the men who boast loudest about glory in the newspapers are always the first to break when the heavy shells land. He points at Lucas and says, "The talker will survive longer than the loudmouths because he remembers there is a world outside of war." Lucas grins. You believe Becker because his voice carries the weight of someone who knows how easy it is for a man to break. In late autumn, you board a freight train heading west. The boxcar is painted with white chalk, 40 Männer, 8 Pferdes. At first, townsfolk gather at every station to hand out flowers, sausages, and beer. Young women blow kisses from the platforms. But as the train moves deeper into Belgium, the flowers disappear. Towns look scorched. The tracks are lined with dead horses and overturned carts. The laughter inside the boxcar dies away. The air smells of burning timber, wet coal, and something faint and sour that you cannot yet name. When the train finally stops, the sound of distant artillery echoes across the horizon like thunder that never ends. Fear settles into your chest, cold and immovable. You march into the front lines near Champagne under a low gray sky. The landscape looks like the surface of the moon, churned earth, shattered tree trunks, and endless zigzagging trenches cut into the chalky soil. You sleep in dugouts 6 meters underground, while heavy shells shake the timber beams above you. Dust falls into your eyes with every explosion. You learn the language of the front, the sharp snap of a sniper's rifle, the wet thump of a trench mortar, the low whistle of incoming heavy artillery that forces every man to press his face into the cold mud. In the autumn of 1915, the rain turns the trench into a knee-deep swamp. Men get foot rot. Rats grow fat on discarded rations. One night, the order comes to fix bayonets for a night raid across no man's land. Rain beats against your iron helmet. The whistle blows. You climb the wooden ladder and step out into the open darkness. Flares burst overhead, lighting up the landscape in harsh white light. Machine gun fire tears through the night air. Bullets hiss past your ears like hot needles. You run through craters filled with green water, tripping over tangle wire. Lucas is beside you, his breathing heavy and ragged. Suddenly, a mortar shell lands in the traverse just ahead. The blast throws you sideways into a shell hole. Dirt showers over you. When the smoke clears, you find Feldwebel Becker lying against a wall of sandbags. Shrapnel has torn through his chest. You press your bandage against the wound, but the blood overflows your fingers. Becker looks up at you, his eyes calm and unnervingly quiet. He reaches into his tunic, pulls out Lucas's half-finished wooden carving, and pushes it into your hand. "Keep moving," he whispers. He dies before the medics can reach the crater. You pull Lucas away from the body as artillery begins to register on the line. War teaches you its cruelty in seconds. If you stop to mourn, you die next to the man you loved. By 1916 at Verdun, the war has stripped away every illusion. The leaves have fallen 2 autumns in a row, and you are still in France. Steel helmets replace the leather caps. Gas masks hang in cans around your neck. You learn the horrific terror of mustard gas, watching the yellow cloud drift across the shattered earth, praying your mask seal holds while men around you choke on their own lungs. Replacements arrive constantly now, younger and thinner each time. Among them is 17-year-old Heinrich, who wears a coat 2 sizes too large and talks about winning the Iron Cross. Lucas gives him a piece of hardtack bread and tells him medals won't fill an empty stomach. 2 days later, during an 8-hour bombardment, Heinrich freezes in the corner of the dugout, staring at the ceiling as shell after shell rocks the earth. When a shell direct hits the entrance, burying half the squad, you dig Heinrich out with your bare hands. He isn't bleeding, but he never speaks another word. They carry him away 2 days later, his eyes wide and fixed on nothing. You write letters home to Clara, but you lie about everything. You tell her the French countryside is quiet. You tell her the soup is warm. You do not tell her that your hands tremble so badly you can barely hold the pen. You do not tell her that Clara's brass compass is scratched and covered in dry mud. You write at the bottom, "The watch still ticks." In the spring of 1918, the High Command launches the final offensive. They tell you one last push will bring victory. You charge across shattered fields you have fought over for 3 years. In a captured British trench, Lucas is hit by a sniper while trying to reach a tin of preserved beef. He collapses into your arms behind a traverse. You tear open his tunic, trying to stop the dark blood pouring from his side. Lucas grips your wrist. He doesn't ask about home or his mother. He opens his hand and slips Clara's brass compass back to you. You hadn't realized it had fallen from your pocket during the charge. "Go back," Lucas whispers, his voice fading into a rattle. "Tell them the bread was good." Then his hand falls limp. When the armistice arrives on November 11th, 1918, there are no celebrations in your trench, no cheering, only a sudden, terrifying silence that hurts your ears. The guns simply stop. You step out of the trench and look across no man's land. The mud is still there, the wire is still there, but the men you marched west with are gone. You return to Leipzig in early 1919. The leaves have changed 4 times since you left. The city is cold, hungry, and full of strike banners and crippled veterans sitting on street corners. Your mother holds you and weeps. Your father looks at your hollow cheeks and says nothing. He understands the quiet that lives inside you now. Clara meets you at the station. She looks older, her eyes marked by years of breadlines and worry. She wraps her arms around you, but you feel as though a wall of thick glass stands between you and the rest of the world. You try to return to the watchmaker's bench, but when a heavy wagon rumbles past on the cobblestones outside, you drop your tools and throw yourself under the table. When rain taps against the window, you hear the rattle of machine guns. You keep Clara's brass compass in your desk drawer, next to Lucas's wooden carving. You marry Clara that autumn. Years turn into decades. You take over the shop, raise a family, and watch the world move on. Your children ask about the Great War, but you only tell them safe, simple stories about cold nights and long marches. You never speak of Becker in the crater, or Heinrich's silent stare, or Lucas dying in the mud over a tin of food. In 1964, 50 years after the letter arrived in your father's shop, you travel back to France with Clara. The trenches are now smooth, green, grassy ditches. Wildflowers grow where no man's land used to be. High white headstones stand in long, silent rows under the quiet sky. You stand at the edge of a hillside overlooking the old battlefield. You take out the brass compass, worn smooth by 50 years of your thumb running across its lid. You open it one last time, reading Clara's faded scratching, "Home before leaves fall." You place the compass gently on the green grass of the old parapet, leaving it behind with the comrades who never left those fields. Clara takes your hand. The air is warm, and the gentle wind rustles through the oak trees nearby. For the first time in half a century, the thunder in your mind fades away. You turn your back on the old trenches, pull Clara close, and step forward into the quiet afternoon.